Yeah, so we started today's show by talking about the Vancouver Canucks and the Carolina Hurricanes trades that almost went through. How the Hurricanes had reported deals on the table for both JT Miller and Elias Pettersson, separately, but ultimately decided against doing that and went with the Mikko Rantanen trade instead. We started today's show by talking about Pettersson and Miller. I was going to say we're ending today's show by talking about Pettersson and Miller, but that would be inaccurate since we're probably going to make some post-game videos about some of the games later on. But I wanted to talk about a tweet or two or three posted in the last few hours here that kind of stir the pot even more for Vancouver. Because everybody's been debating whether or not it's, Pettersson trade or Miller trade. Pettersson trade or Miller trade. Which one stays and which one goes? Well, what about both of them? Let's go out there and read Cam Robinson's Twitter account. He posted this yesterday morning, and we had talked about this tweet in our Elias Pettersson trade update video. Don't be surprised to hear the Elias Pettersson trade talk ramp back up. Vancouver is unhappy with their offers for Miller, and it'll be easier to recoup value in a Pettersson deal. This coincides nicely with all the information we had seen yesterday about how the Carolina Hurricanes were close to getting a Pettersson trade done. Marty Necas was almost a Vancouver Canuck, Petey was almost a Kane, and even though those talks were progressing, the Hurricanes decided, no, sorry, we'll just get Rantanen instead. Now, earlier this morning, you had Cam Robinson tweet this out. When I posted this yesterday, I was flat out told that Elias Pettersson would be moved ASAP. Every indication is that there was a deal in place for him to go to Carolina, but the Hurricanes decided on Rantanen instead. I'll add to this. If Elias Pettersson is moved, I would expect JT would be moved at some point as well. He wants out. The ink appears dried in that situation. And if you're dealing both of them, Boeser, Demko, Quinn, the whole core could come crashing down. For clarity, I don't think the Canucks would trade Quinn unless they absolutely had to, as in the trade deadline of his contract year and they can't get an extension done, something like that. But aside from an extreme circumstance like that, it seems like Cam is saying, hey, Quinn's probably going to stay, right? And Cam Robinson, as we're familiar with, the main Elite Prospects Director of Film Scouting and Content Director, he is one of the more connected guys in the hockey world. And hearing that Elias Pettersson was on his way out ASAP only gets more interesting when you dive into the idea of trading Miller as well. And here's the entire reason we're making this video. It's because if the Vancouver Canucks go down this path, if they trade Petey, if they trade Miller, they decide at some point they want to trade Boeser or they want to trade Demko, I mean, this would obviously be an Apocalypse Now level event for the course of the Vancouver Canucks. Just going over how tragic this downfall has been from last year to this year. Last year? Oh, you want to trade Pettersson? Why would you do that? He was a top scorer in the NHL for most of last season up until the All-Star break. Why would you trade Miller? He's a 100-point guy. Why would you trade Boeser? He had a career year. He had 40 goals. Why would you trade Demko? He was a Vezina candidate. Why would you trade any of these guys? Why would you get rid of Tocchet? 1 year ago, things were so different, and I feel like now, Satyr Shah was talking about this yesterday on Canucks Central as well, but now, at this point, you have no choice but to look at last year as the outlier year. You think of the past 5-6 years of Vancouver Canucks hockey, sure, they had the bubble playoffs in 2019, 2020, but then, the year after, the North Division season, they sucked. The year after, still kind of sucked. The year after, still kind of sucked. Getting better, but still kind of sucked. Pettersson had a 100-point season that year. Okay, great. But then, they have the season that they had last year, and everything looks good. What the hell happened from last year up until this year, man? The core is all underperforming with the exception of Quinn Hughes. The defense is ill-constructed. The team is not winning games. They haven't won 2 games in a row since December 1st. And they're on the outside of the playoff race looking in. The thing is, if you look at, the standings, it's kind of miraculous that the Vancouver Canucks are even still in whatever playoff race could exist at this point. They are 3 points removed from the wild card, which blows my mind that they're still that close to the entire playoff picture. The team is getting carried by the amount of overtime losses that they have, because even though a loss is still a loss, the Canucks are getting a whole bunch of extra points from those losses. Guess what? If you sort by wins, the Vancouver Canucks are the 6th worst team in the NHL in terms of wins. Or at least they're tied with Pittsburgh and the Islanders, but it's Pittsburgh and the gosh darn Islanders. And this core of superstar players is just not finding ways to put results onto paper. So, with Cam Robinson going out there and talking about this, I actually don't entirely disagree with the notion that if you trade away Pettersson, I don't know if JT Miller is the guy to fully take a team into the palm of his hand. Like, we know he had a 100-point season, but the consistency in his game, the inconsistency up and down seasons, and the attitude and the boisterous nature of his personality, is that the right fit for this group? I don't know. You trade away Petey, how happy is Brock with that decision? If you trade away Miller, you're not going to get much production out of Brock. Unless Rick Tocchet decides to keep Boeser and Pettersson together for an extended amount of time, a combination that has proven to have worked in the past, but unfortunately, as we had seen today, seems like Pettersson's going to be the third-line center with Höglander and Karlsson as his wingers, and the whole core could come crumbling down as a result. Quinn Hughes might be the only guy who is still here after everything. We have seen Patrick Allvin and Jim Rutherford not be afraid to make the big moves, to pull the big triggers, and to really get things going, especially early on. They don't wait. They don't like to wait. Pettersson was almost traded yesterday, but ultimately, he's still here. And the Vancouver Canucks playing off against the Washington Capitals later tonight, one of the best teams in the NHL, if not, I think they're the best straight-up team points-wise this season. Yeah, they've got 71 points in 48 games. They are the best team by a mile in terms of points percentage. The Washington Capitals are right there. And, yeah, they're 8-2 in their last 10. Canucks are going to have their work cut out for them. Ultimately, though, I'll leave you with this. Let's take a look at this tweet made by Taj. Miller and Pettersson both know they were almost traded in the past week. Maybe they can bond over this. It would be hilarious if Elias Pettersson asks out Miller after this. Okay, that's not going to happen. I don't think they're going to go out there and go to dinner. We know that they don't play video games or PlayStation together. They're not friends. But Miller, 1 week ago, almost traded to New York. Pettersson, yesterday, almost traded to Carolina. Now I'm just kind of thinking, when is that domino going to fall? Are we going to see a Pettersson trade for another huge young star? If it's Chicago, if it's like Connor Bedard or something, obviously that would not happen, but ultimately, the value is there, I would say, to get enough assets to accrue younger talent that this team and this fan base could get behind. If you get Pettersson off of the team, you get Bedard or something, you trade Miller and Demko to New Jersey for, Jack and Luke Hughes, and you end up getting Jake Allen back in the process. You re-sign Lankinen. You trade away Boeser for another young guy. There are opportunities, but of course, none of these trades are realistic at all. It's all just fantasy GM mode booking stuff. Ultimately, though, I do think the Canucks are in a much more dire spot today than they have been in the past few weeks. With all the trade rumors and all the losses piling up, something's got to give. And I want you to tell me what you think about it all. Do you think by this time in 2026, let's say 1 year from now, is Elias Pettersson a Vancouver Canuck? Is JT Miller a Vancouver Canuck? Is Boeser a Canuck? Is Demko a Canuck? Quinn Hughes, they're probably going to hold on to him for as long as they can. But all the other guys, what's the situation? Who stays? Who goes? We had been thinking about this idea for a while now, could Miller and Pettersson get traded? But now it's not even just them. Is it Miller? Is it Pettersson? Is it Demko and Boeser? Do they all get traded? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. This video, this channel, this show, it's brought to you by ExpressVPN. Go out there and check out the first link in the description if you want to save some money on your VPN and get some free months. Also, you're helping the channel out in the process. Let me know in the comments what do you think about the Canucks and their core shaking up. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.